Warchant TV. It feels like we just said goodnight for the evening alongside the managing editor of Warchant.com. He is Ira Schoffel. He's back in the right part of Florida. That is Tallahassee, Florida. He is in Warchant headquarters / Schoffel office. My name is Tom Lang, the director of original content here at Warchant TV, Warchant.com. And a happy 12-0 Sunday to everybody out there. And if you're hate watching from Gainesville, happy first day of your off season for Florida Gators football. This is the Sunday Smash presented by State Farm agent Russ Voorhis, a longtime supporter of Florida State athletics, and of course, one of the OGs in terms of supporting Warchant.com, Warchant TV. Ira, how you doing? Did you get some sleep, get caught up, maybe solid 6 hours or a little bit less?
No, not quite. Aslan and I would try to get some work done in Gainesville before we headed back, and so we didn't roll into my crib at about 3:45, I think, and then got up this morning too early. So, not a great night's sleep, but I was kind of surprised, though, when we got in at 3:45. I thought we would hop on the computer and see you guys still doing the post-game show, but I guess you had concluded. We must have just missed you.
You did. I think it's a new record that we may try to break this upcoming weekend if the news is good from Charlotte. I think it was 3 hours, 10 minutes. It was just the support, Ira. I mean, really, I'll pivot to this just to thank everybody out there. The support was massive. Upwards of 5,000 of you had tuned in at any given time for the first couple hours. The amount of super chat contributions, the amount of callers. Ira, you joined us, I think, we were in hour 3 of the broadcast.
I thought you guys were done. By the time we got done with interviews and we were done with the wrap, and then we went back up to the press box. Like I looked on the YouTube channel, for some reason it looked different. I thought you guys were done. And then Gene texted him, was like, are you guys coming on? So anyway.
It got a little froggy. There might have been some adult language in the beginning of it.
Seen some of that.
Yeah. You know me, I had a little bit of it, but that's not typically my bag, at least in the post-game show. But it was an emotional night last night in so many ways, and you got to feel that in a way that so many of us wanted to. Like, there's a FOMO in a situation like going on the road at 11-0, your rival trying to spoil everything for you. That press box is open air. At least I believe it still is, right? You got to feel the essence of what the Swamp was last night. And that must have been some kind of atmosphere, especially because, Ira, much like Miami had a couple of weeks before, they had hope that they were going to knock off Florida State for a solid 2.5 hours until Florida State just outlasted them. That must have been one hell of a night to document.
Yeah, it was pretty neat, especially from the time Florida State scored late in the second quarter. Up until that point, it was like, man, this, you start thinking, man, are they going to get the ball inside their 10-yard line every time? Is Tate going to just never get a chance to get anything going? And they got that drive, and I just, like, even talking to some of the Florida media at halftime, some of my friends that cover UF at halftime, they were all like, okay, well, this is probably not going to go Florida's way in the second half. They've seen this script before, and that's kind of how it played out. So yeah, the second half was definitely fun to watch, and there was a lot of emotions in that stadium because you had a pretty good number of FSU fans there. You had the marching Chiefs doing what they were doing. You had a lot of stuff going back and forth, including bodily fluids. It was just it had a lot, man. It was a lot. It was a lot to take in.
Yeah, it was. It felt like, and I know Corey's column says I was wrong to doubt them, but it felt like at 12-0, like it was just caving in, and Florida State found a way to comport itself. I think Billy Napier might have had a little bit of an assist with calling a flea flicker that completely imploded. They were in plus territory after the safety, and that short-circuited that drive. And Florida State, even though they got pinned back, they go 90 yards. I think they were starting to move the football, get in a rhythm, even with the spitting incident. It's not like Florida State was in a 3rd and 15 and it was an incomplete pass, and that extended the drive. The way the TV broadcast presented it was like the spitting incident spurred on Florida State. Tate had already made a throw at that point. They were starting to move along. But you get to halftime and you think, oh, my God, all of that crap happened, and it's a 5-point game. And 4 of the points of that margin are unbelievably inexplicable. They're inexplicable is probably the best word because of the Akeem Dent penalty. Did even the Florida Gators beat that you maybe talked with at halftime say, I have no idea what the hell that call was? Because I think that objectively has to be something that anybody would look at and say, no, that's all wrong, ACC refs.
Good. I actually didn't talk to anybody about that. We were talking about some other stuff, some big picture stuff. So I didn't get to get their opinions on that. But I mean, what could you say?
Yeah.
I mean, that was just ridiculous. It was, it's just one of those things where you're just like, you can't understand it. And again, the one I equate it with, I said it last night with you guys, was the Josh Farmer hit last year at NC State, where it was just like he did nothing wrong. I remember asking Adam Fuller after that game, or Corey asked Adam Fuller, what could Josh Farmer have done differently? And he's like, no, that's exactly what we teach. And my feeling is, I think we're going to hear him say the same thing about Akeem Dent when we talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah. Is there anything so we discussed like the big picture stuff. I remember on the way out, asked you about Mike Norvell and maybe the team's attitude at turning the page versus embracing the night and enjoying tonight. And you'd said that at least there was a consistent message of this isn't finished. There's more to do. And I got to see that once we signed off, Gene and I. But is there anything that maybe upon reflection, after getting a little cat nap in the middle of the night into Sunday, that maybe you say, that was really cool? It could either be from on the field towards the end of the game or the press room, just anything from being there that we wouldn't see or we wouldn't feel.
I think, going back and, listening to some of the going back, like just listening to some of the interactions between the players, like when Braden Fisk and Jared Verse are up there talking together after the game. They might want to go on the road as like a comedy duo. There's just like Braden plays the grumpy old man and Jared's the young guy that's constantly messing. They could have a buddy cop movie, like back in the day, like in the 80s. But I really think the one thing today we talked to Mike Norvell on. He had a conference call for the ACC Championship game. They had Norvell and Jeff Brom on a conference call, and one thing Norvell said, I thought that was a good thing, I think, for FSU fans to hear, is when Tate went back in for that last play, the touchdown by Trey Benson, that was actually, he had multiple calls. It was one of those plays where they had multiple options when he went to the line of scrimmage, and Tate actually got them into the right play, which led to Trey Benson scoring a touchdown. I think that's something that I think Florida State fans want to hear, that, Tate in a situation like that can make the decision that leads to good plays. I'm sure there were other instances as well. But that was one that Mike Norvell singled out. So, yeah, man, I think it was just the other thing, and I'm writing about it a little bit in my 3-2-1 column, is I was really just impressed by how well they handled the stuff, extracurriculars. And I thought it was, really good from before the game when Florida State's coaching staff and strength coaches were like building a wall between where the Florida players were warming up and where the FSU players. I don't know what Florida's doing. That setup is ridiculous. You can't have Florida State's players, the opposing players, and it's not just FSU, the opposing players, you have to go through one specific tunnel in the corner to go to your locker room at the end of pregame. But the Florida players all warm up over there. And so it becomes a volatile situation anytime they're playing somebody that's a rival. And 2 years ago, that I thought was what led to FSU losing that game, because you had that big skirmish. FSU's players lost their minds and they played emotionally that whole night. And I think that was a big part of why they lost. And you could tell from the fact that FSU had coaches lined up there to keep them apart. And then just the way the FSU guys responded or didn't respond. We saw it in the Miami game when James Williams from Miami kept trying to get them, to bait them into altercations, and they never fell for it. They didn't do it again. Again, that's one thing that's, it's not in the stat sheet. It's not necessarily reflective of a win or a loss, but I really think it does play a big role, and it shows really how far this team has come.
Shows why Miami and Florida equal 12 wins between those two programs this year, and Florida State is at 12 by itself too. That's part of it. This is one of those days where you get to enjoy that type of Schadenfreude, but it all adds up, Ira, right?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it. I mean, Miami again in the Miami Florida State game, they tried so many times to bait Florida State into things, and should have been called for some. I mean, snatching Jordan Travis's necklace on the field. I mean, there were so many things that they did that could have led to personal fouls. The referees that night didn't call them, but then when the next week they did get called, and it cost them a game. And then when you look at Florida, I mean, their personal fouls or unsportsmanlike conducts, and then the targeting at the end really played a huge role in their loss. And that's if you're a Florida fan, man, you've got to be really frustrated because that is year 2 now, and you're still very undisciplined at the end of the season.
Just about 1,000 of you here with us on Sunday Smash, presented by State Farm agent Russ Voorhees. Do us a favor, hit the thumbs up at the bottom of the video, subscribe to the channel. It is absolutely free. Ira, just a week ago when we were convening for Sunday Smash and talking amongst each other in the fan base or the media base, you're still numb that day after the Jordan Travis injury, and it's just like it doesn't feel real. I remember even into Monday we were doing the JCS, and it was the first time that Jeff and I were in the studio talking about it, and it didn't feel real that Jordan was not going to be a part of the rest of the journey. And in a way, I feel numb today on the other side. They're 12-0. They did it. Like, no matter what happens this week, and you're traveling up to Charlotte, so is Aslan, Matt Lasser, Corey's going to be there, Jeff's going to be there. Like, that's the first trip in 9 years. We've known that that was coming for weeks now. It's an undefeated regular season. It's untouchable. It is now untouchable. It has been accomplished. That is just phenomenal. They did it. And so it's numb in all the correct ways that is now, this team will be forever remembered for going perfect in the regular season. You've covered quite a few of those in your time here, but this is truly a special group.
Yeah, and Norvell was really good about that today on that conference call as well, which people can watch the video. Aslan recorded it, and it's on YouTube. But one of the things he said was he made a point to tell the team that today when they came back they were back in Tallahassee. They had their first team meeting back this afternoon, and Norvell told them, he said, "Look, man, there's only 4 FSU teams have ever been 12-0, and you're one of them. Like, you're gonna." And you think back to a year ago, how much they embraced their 10-win season. And that was a rallying cry for them when they going into the bowl game. That was one of the things that they had talked to those players all the time about leading up to the bowl game was there's only so many teams that have those 10-win seasons up on the walls inside the Moore Center. And you could be one of those teams. Well, that was cool, but there's a lot more of them than 4. Well, now you're one of 4 teams that have been 12-0. And he told them, that's awesome. And you guys should be proud of that. But is that all you want to be remembered for? And that's kind of the rallying cry now is, you can do more than that. You can add in an ACC championship. You can become 13-0. You can make the college football playoff for the 3rd time in school history. There's a lot more on the table. And I don't know what you think, but I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a legitimate or maybe even a better chance of them making the playoff. I feel like now than I did maybe going into that game. I don't know. For some reason, I just feel like getting over that hurdle in the swamp was a big deal.
Yes. If the pregame show yesterday, put it cleanly, like Jeff and I were both on edge because you just felt like this is a hurdle. And I remember feeling this way, Ira, before the Miami game a few weeks back, 2 weeks back now, that if they could get through that, because you're perceiving and projecting that Jordan's going to be healthy the rest of the way. Like, if Jordan was healthy last night, I don't look at it as a humongous hurdle relative to the Miami challenge. But I remember that night thinking, if you could just get past this is going to happen. You're going to make it. And then Jordan gets hurt. And so the Florida game takes on its completely different tenor. I thought Max Brown is a worse matchup for this particular defense. I know a lot of times the cliche is running quarterbacks are always more difficult. I think pocket passers this season for this group of Florida State defenders are easier to deal with it. So that is to say, I think that the defense matches up better with Plummer at Louisville than maybe some of the unknowns and the wrinkles that Max Brown was going to bring to the table yesterday. So it was, can you survive this one now? Can you survive this challenge? I agree. It was a big moment. And I think also, Ira, to help quell the noise from all the pundits who want to say as many things, hot takes as they possibly can before the playoff committee show on Tuesday, that Washington had its difficulties, that Alabama needed a miracle, that Georgia only won by 8 points over Georgia Tech as 20-plus point favorites. You can't single out Florida State and complain about what Florida State did last night, covering on the road with a backup quarterback. I think there's a little bit of cushion there now. I would be stunned if Florida State was not in the top 4 and a one-loss team jumped them in this latest release of the rankings on Tuesday night. So I think that all of those things add together to a bit of relief as long as they take care of business on Saturday night.
Yeah, it is weird how it just feels like they've been viewed a little bit differently. I don't know if it's because they're in the ACC. I mean, yes, I agree that Florida State has not looked sterling in some of these wins, especially maybe in the last month. And Norvell even talked about that today as well. He said we've gotten off to some slow starts. he thinks it was, that was one thing I thought was interesting. He said today, he thinks part of it is the emotions of these last few games. Miami, rivalry game. North Alabama's senior day. You have all the seniors being honored, the national championship team, all of that. And it's a sandwich game between Miami and Florida. Now you have the Florida game again with a, backup quarterback. So, I get the idea that, you want to look stronger. You want to look more impressive. But I'm kind of surprised that Florida State's not being embraced by the nation, because this is a likable football team. You're not going to find a lot more likable players. Go watch those interviews from after the game. Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Trey Benson, Tate Rodemaker, Mike Norvell. And then the journey that they've gone through. I mean, this is a team that 2 years ago was left for dead, was a national punchline when they lost to Jacksonville State. And here you are about to go back to the college football playoff. It's weird that they're not really being embraced. I haven't put my finger on why that is.
Yeah, maybe it's because Twitter's paying money for engagements now. I don't know. Maybe they know that FSU Twitter can get involved and make everybody a couple extra dollars. We will have a live show again on Tuesday night for the penultimate release of the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings. Generally speaking, Ira, they have not engaged in the Florida State besmirching like a lot of the paid analysts do. The committee has been pretty respectful of Florida State's resume to this point. So I don't think they're going to get dropped, but we shall see. We've got a lot of people to thank here already who have contributed to the program tonight on Sunday Smash, presented by State Farm agent Russ Forrest. Florida man in Texas, 12-0, boys. Let's get number 13 for 13 in Charlotte. Based on Coach's Sunday interview, he's been watching some Coach speak. Hashtag I appreciate that question. Ira, did you note there was a little Aranda out there today?
I didn't. That's pretty funny though, and it's well timed with Dave Aranda getting his contract extension. I love the fact that I don't know, 15 people tweeted at us as soon as the news came out that Dave Aranda got his contract extension, that people are excited about season 2 of Coach Speak.
Well, and folks, I'm assuming that you guys are getting together this week or season.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So it was Thanksgiving week. That was the reason. There's the message boards are lighting up. When's Coach Speak? They tweeted at me. I'm like, man, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they're going to get back together. Yeah. So there's your answer to the 1100 plus. Coach Speak comes back this week. It should be really interesting because there's a lot of exit interviews out there too. So a lot of weird stuff. Garrett PCL, thank you very much for the contribution. Tate wasn't perfect, but that was a tough environment. And the way he came back after that dirty hit gives me a little hope against University of Louisville. Give him one more. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be the starter as long as he's healthy, 100%, Ira, right?
Yeah, and I was thinking about this, and I'm writing about it too, but like, he could not have been put in tougher situations. Like the first drive they get the ball. Florida State gets the ball, first drive in the swamp. We all know what goes into this. They've got a series of plays scripted. That's what they've repped repeatedly at practice. Like that's what you're going in to kind of get your feet underneath you in a road environment, a tough place to play, making his first start in 4 years. And first down, you pick up 4 yards. It's 2nd and 6. The play with Trey Benson, if he just falls forward or just gets stopped for no gain, now Tate's in 3rd and 6, man. That's manageable. Let's see what he can do. Instead, they take a 11-yard loss. So now he's in 3rd and 17. The next drive was where they had the delay of games. And I didn't get a good feel for whether the plays were getting sent in on time or if there was any confusion there or if it was all on Tate. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. But and then I think the next drive that was when they got backed up into the 6. I mean, on a punt. So it's just like he was always in 3rd and long in poor field position. So I just felt like you couldn't judge him there. The best thing you could hope for in those situations, in that situation for that quarterback, in that environment, was to not turn it over. And he didn't turn it over. So, man, you're just trying to kind of absorb the punches until you can get a better situation. And then, they started getting that situation.
You're right. That's a great way to put it, absorbing the punches. It just felt like the game never got on level footing. And then you score before half and you feel like, okay, you can exhale at this point. But they had one offensive possession in the span of about 45 minutes to an hour of real time.
And I think that if you're a fan or if you're somebody that or anybody that's got a vested interest in a team, whether it's because you're gambling or because you're a fan, you start to get panicked in those situations. And I think, it's one thing I made a comment to Corey after Florida's second drive. I thought it was interesting. Adam Fuller, I don't know if you could tell on TV or not, but Adam Fuller was playing 2 safeties deep the first 2 drives. And I kind of wondered how long he would stick with that because, I mean, the most people would have thought you would bring a safety down with a running quarterback, make his first start. He's not going to be taking a lot of shots. But I guess maybe they felt like maybe Florida would expect that, and they're going to try to get a cheap one or two. So he's playing two safeties back for a lot those first couple drives. And it wasn't like the defense was bad against the run, but they weren't creating negative plays. They were letting Florida kind of stay ahead of the chains. And then, the kid made a couple of nice throws, and they have a couple of runs scored out. And so it's just like, I was wondering, like, when's Adam Florida going to start forcing the issue? And on the other side of the ball, like, when's, Norvell going to maybe try to take some deep shots to kind of loosen up that floor? And they didn't really, they kind of stuck to their plan. And I'll give them credit for that, because I think the tendency for most of us, like you said, when the offense only has the ball for 3 plays in a quarter, that leads to the anxiety. When's this offense going to get going? And it's a first-time quarterback, so you don't have the trust you would with Jordan. So I think all of that kind of played into it.
Yeah, it's almost like you're trying to score 10 points in one drive because you've been waiting for so long. And then defensively, yeah, it was tough. I thought early on, Florida won hidden yards. They had guys bottled up a lot early. Then it ended up being, instead of a loss of 2, a gain of 2, or a no gain, a gain of 3. Like, they were in the right position several times, unable to close. And then the linebackers got victimized a couple of times on the second drive. The first drive was keyed by the ridiculous third down throw that Brown made. That, I mean, Ira, that's reserved for Jameis Winston in 2013, that type of throw.
It's unbelievable. I'm still not even sure he knows how he did it. Like, I don't think they could rep that in practice 10 times and him complete it 5 times, but yeah, tip your cap, he did it.
Tip your cap. They still only scored 13 points offensively on the night, and about nine of them were legitimate. And I don't even know that kid makes the field goal because he was a little rough. Smack was a little rough. If Akeem Dent's sack would stand, you never know. FSU fan 1993, thank you very much. 12-0. Go Noles. Tom, I went to bed at 5 a.m. catching up on the 3-hour, 10-minute post-game coverage. Can we lobby for non-ACC refs for the ACC title games? Always love besting UF 13 for 13. Yeah, Ira, can they outsource it? Is there a contract they can sign somewhere that anybody else calls the game?
We definitely pretty confident it's not going to be Jeff Heaser and that crew who we haven't seen in a while. And that was it was incredible. It was like, if you didn't know that the ACC has a financial interest in the A team from the conference going to the college football playoff, you'd be like, well, clearly they sent this guy to this game to screw FSU. Like, what other conference would screw their 11-0 team, but maybe they would in this situation. But you kind of don't believe that just because, the conference stands to benefit from it. But I was, a little surprised to see Heaser as the official for that game.
Look, man, if he's the official on Saturday, I wouldn't be shocked if they cut to the sidelines and you see Jim Phillips going like this. just smiling. James B., thank you very much. One of the pillars. And wow, thank you. Just wanted to drop a little appreciation on you guys for the hard work the entire channel and website have been doing. I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you do. Thank you, James B. Without the folks here on Warchant TV, about 1,250 of you right now, we don't exist. The membership at warchant.com, it's just we're not here without you. So we appreciate that maybe through some of the lean years, you guys stuck with us. And you're ride or die Noles. You're the right kind of Noles. Because, Ira, if you stick through the hard times, the moments like this, I can tell you as a lost Acadian in undergrad, 13 was sweeter. And I was a Nole fan growing up. My sister went here in the 90s. Like, I'd been around. I'd seen some things. But after coming here for the lost decade, 13 was all the better. There's so many Noles out there, especially the younger ones, Ira, that have to be just soaking this in for every minute and really appreciating where they are. It's really fun to cover.
Yeah, man, it's been awesome. And really, and I think, I know sometimes I feel like we come across sometimes, especially Corey and I, because I think we're probably a little bit more encouraging people to appreciate things even when it doesn't look great. And I sometimes I feel bad about that because it's like, it's not our job it's not even our right or privilege or responsibility to tell anybody how they should feel. I get it when people are frustrated with how the team's playing, but also, we have seen the other side of it. And I think that's part of it also. If you're a fan and the team's not doing well, I know there are a lot of great fans, probably most of the people that are watching this, who even when the team's not doing well, will sit there and sit through every agonizing minute and watch every embarrassing play and just feel awful because they care that much. I think there's probably a lot of fans who are just like, all right, well, I'm going to go golf. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to let this ruin my life. The team stinks. I'll be back later. And so those people maybe don't appreciate as much. I have to feel like the people who've been through, and like you said, the people that really go through every agonizing defeat during some of those ugly years. I mean, think about think about the players that were lining up 3 years ago. Think about the crazy, everybody, the turnover backpack is the number one punching bag that everybody brings up. But
Ooh.
think about some of the plays in those games. You got two players fighting over a loose ball at the end zone and ends up going back to the other team, or just, the crazy personal fouls, playing like Florida did at times in the second half of the game. So it's just, it's always good to kind of remember how bad it can be.
To me, it all started with, and it's not necessarily this guy because he's a nice guy, but 3rd and Kelly against Miami when the streak came to an end. It was still Jimbo's time, but you just felt like you weren't going to lose to them for another few years. The Platinum Bohica, as we say in JCS parlance, it was within striking distance.
Slipped away.
I mean, yeah, defeat from the jaws of victory kind of a thing. And then it got worse and it got worse and it got worse. I always, Ira, scoff, or I did in my 20s, and people say these things are cyclical. As you get older, you realize when the getting is good, hop on board and enjoy it. So thank you to everybody for doing that. NoleBuck83. Sorry I missed the post game. Was busy over serving myself in celebration for that gator roasting. You guys are the best. Well, you are, NoleBuck83. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I should say before we thank the next person that Dominic Robinson, lead football analyst for Warchant.com, will be joining us in just a little bit as well. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be fun. Seth, run game seems set to pop. Excuse me. A few runs last night that almost hit, and it feels like the big game is coming. Benson's first run is a huge gain if he reads it correctly. Good week upcoming for a big one. Yeah, they've been like that the whole year. But I think, Ira, at this point through 12 games, this reminds me of 2 seasons ago, kind of that Jashawn Corbin season where there's a lot of zeros, ones, twos, maybe negative ones, and then they pop one. And that's what happened again last night for this offensive line, this running game.
Yeah, it's because you do see those plays. You look at there was probably 2 or 3 runs last night where you just feel like, okay, they are definitely, if either Tate gives it or if the running back makes a different read.
Yep.
I mean, just it was there for them. And that's a bad defense, and so to some degree you kind of let them hang around, you help them out, but also part of that's the emotions of a rivalry game. And I think that was kind of what Norvell was saying is, in the Florida game and Miami game, part of the reason rivalry games are close, and you can ask Alabama about it, you can ask Texas about it, or, whoever it is, you do things, you get so emotional that you don't think clearly. Mm-hmm. And so some of those cuts, some of those decisions don't get made, and that you leave points on the board. But I agree with him. I think that was not a situation where the offensive line wasn't giving them opportunities. They had opportunities.
The 2nd and 10, just before the end of the 3rd quarter, where Tate throws it to Johnny on RPO. The linebackers, none of them followed Trey. And that was one where I go, oh, dear God. He might still be running if you just hand the ball off. Because Tate pulled it pretty hard in that situation. I think Trey was thinking, love you, my man, but give me the ball there. San Diego Chris, what's going on? Ira, drink the Avion Reserva 44 extra añejo tequila. What do you say?
Chris is the man. So Chris did send me that bottle. I've got it right here. I was going to save it for the ACC Championship victory. Or the announcement that they're in the playoff. I also wanted, I want to do it in a group setting. I kind of want to do it in a group setting because I know Jeff wants to try it as well. And I know you would as well. So yeah, Chris, I appreciate it. It is sitting here. It is displayed beautifully. I love it. I appreciate it. You're the best. I don't think tonight's the night though. I don't know if I can celebrate a win over Max Brown.
Oh, wow. Well put. Disrespecting the Gators. There you go. Disrespect them. Dismiss them. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate the contribution. Z-Chain, the official DMD of Warchant TV, like the 25.14. Very nice. Still can't believe how good our defense played last night. We have got to try and retain Patrick Payton. How does the offensive game plan need to change for Louisville, if at all? Let's keep it with the defense first, Ira. MVPs of the first half. I said it last night on the pregame show. In no particular order, the Marching Chiefs, the band brought it, but then Braden Fisk was dominant in that first half specifically, and then Akeem Dent was dominant all game long, but he played a whale of a first half and a whale of a game. And then in the second half, the D-line took over, but they were outstanding last night.
Yeah, no, for sure. Akeem definitely was. I mean, they had a few plays that, I mean, he's it. I mean, you got a guy in the open field, and those are hard to, I mean, those are not easy tackles to make against NFL type running backs. And they've got a couple of NFL type running backs. And he really did a great job. And the defense front, yeah, I understand people's fear of some of these guys leaving early. I don't know, man. I don't think Patrick Payton is a surefire early NFL draft pick. I mean, I know he's a talented kid and he's come a long way and he's impressive. But I don't know. Because of the way NIL works and because of the way Battle's End operates and the way people are supporting the Battle's End, and people need to keep supporting the Battle's End if you want to keep these types of players. But the way that all works now is guys don't have to take a risk to go out and maybe be a third, fourth, or fifth round pick and start making money. There's opportunities to make money while they're in college. So I would think Patrick Payton stays. I still think Josh Farmer stays. I still think I think Daryl Jackson, no matter what he does in the postseason, would be smart to stay. So I think this defense is still going to come back and be really, really good.
It felt like everybody took turns in that interior last night. Braden was the first act, but Fabo had a couple of big plays. Farmer had some plays. Malcolm Ray had a big play or two last night. And if they can do it one more time, Ira, they'll be in the playoff with Daryl Jackson in the fold as well. The rich get richer if they can finish the job this weekend.
Yeah, and I thought they were very disciplined. You saw a few plays where, the way they broke down on the quarterback, not let him squeak out. And then even when somebody else wasn't the first one back there, the other guys would maintain their position so that they really did. I felt like they did a really good job of keeping their integrity and not letting him get out for any big gains.
A few more people to thank here. Sean Noles. We need a D-Rob watch along for the ACC title game, possibly the playoffs if we make it, trying to speak it into existence. Sean, your contribution is appreciated and your comment is noted. We will present that to Gene Williams for a final call on that one. Robert D, 12-0. Just wanted to say it was pretty awesome watching Verse literally use their left tackle to sack the quarterback. Gene called it a Waffle House sack, I guess.
That was nuts.
Director Ben had that clip from last night. I know it's in a different part of what we do in our software, but if you want to load that and play it at any point, Director Ben, go for it. But that was something else, man.
So we were sitting, we were in the that was the offense. Florida's offense was coming towards us, and we're in kind of like the corner of the end zone. So all we saw was like linemen, and then you saw him there and just kind of collapse. And so I knew he got hit, but I didn't realize what Jared had done to the tackle that led to the hit. But the way Max Brown went down from our vantage point, it looked like, like when a typhoon hits land or something. Like it was just like all of a sudden, just this force just knocked him down. And then when you see the video replay, that poor left tackle.
It felt like for the last quarter and a half, they could have had a tackle for loss or a sack on every play. On every play, it was something else. And when you're facing there it goes. Yeah, look at this. My other favorite part of this, look at Farmer split the double team up the middle. I mean, they were just, reservations for 3 or 4 at the quarterback on every play, it felt like down the stretch there. Florida had negative yardage in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, Ira, they had more penalty yards than they did the entirety of the second half offensively. I mean, the stats just go on and on for days. It was quite the performance. James S. says, love you guys. But Ira, man, you got to fix that mute button when asking coach questions. Keep up the good work, fellas. Is that one of those classic cases of Zoom where like the handler hits it, then you hit it?
I had two separate issues. The first time, I thought he was going to bring up the message. When we do Zooms with FSU, Derek, the way it's set up, it brings up a notice that you're supposed to unmute yourself. Mm-hmm. But I didn't get that notice. So I thought he was unmuting us. Mm-hmm. And then he didn't. So I had to go unmute myself after I figured it out. I'm not blaming him because everybody else on the call seemed to get it, but Ira did not. The second time, I had hit my own personal mute button when Norvell was talking to me because he's answering my question because I had to cough. So I hit the mute button, but I totally forgot about it. So when it came back the second time, I nailed that part, but I forgot my mic mute was off. man, it was a ultimate boomer moment, man. It was 2 times on one call, not my finest moment.
It's all right, though. You're still undefeated, just like the Noles are right now at 12-0. We want to promote something before we give you an extra word from our friend and our sponsor tonight, State Farm agent Russ Voorhis. That's if you want to say hello to the folks at warchant.com in Charlotte, where we are heading this week, Friday night, here's your chance. Warchant staff meet and greet at Resident Culture. Ira will be there. Aslan, Corey, Matt Lasser, Jeff Cameron. 5 Warchant members strong. Warchant staff members strong this weekend in Charlotte. Resident Culture, there's the address, 332 West Bland Street. This is in conjunction with the Charlotte Seminole Club. I'm told there will be refreshments and food and music, all replete with the good stuff on a Friday night in Charlotte. That's the South End, Resident Culture, 332 West Bland Street. The event begins at 6, the meet and greet at 6:30. Come hang out. There's also obviously an event on Saturday as well with the Charlotte Seminole Club. That's if you just want a little bit of extra game day feel, that's where you go. But Friday night, Resident Culture. Ira, it's the meet and greet we've been waiting to do for a long time. One for an ACC championship. It's been 9 years. Time flies, but finally Florida State flies back to the top of the ACC in the regular season.
A lot of things have changed since then. It's again, like, it's amazing. We used to just plan. It was like clockwork. When the season started, you tell your spouse or significant others to cross off that first weekend in December because we're going to Charlotte, and hasn't been there in a while. So it's definitely good to get back.
So this week, top storyline to you is Florida State gets prepared to play Louisville. Like, we all enjoy basking in it. And if you're in the chat right now, you still want to talk smack about Florida season being over, about them going 5-7 a year after going 6-6 in the regular season. Hey, we don't blame you. But this is a humongous week ahead for Florida State. And Tate Rodemaker has a second crack at Louisville. Last year, he led Florida State from a deficit to a 35-31 victory in Game 3 of the season over the Cardinals. Different head coach for Louisville. He brings in his own quarterback from Purdue. What do you think the top storyline is, Ira? Or maybe your observations from today's opening coach press conferences in terms of setting the tone for this week? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's a lot of micro stories. I don't know if there's a macro story for this one. To me, just there's a lot of interesting subplots. You look at what Louisville's done. What is this Louisville team? They've played extremely well. They have a great record, except they really didn't play a very good schedule. I remember going back to ACC kickoff, talking to other media in that follow the ACC, not just one school. And a lot of them were saying, man, you look at Louisville's schedule, and there's a chance they could be in the ACC championship game because they really don't have that tough of a schedule. And, here you are, and that's kind of how it's played out. And then they've got a couple of ugly losses. The Pitt loss, Kentucky loss, both similar in that they kind of shot themselves in the foot, had some turnovers. But they're a good, solid team. And so, it's just and then beyond that, you've got the situation, obviously, with Tate still going on. Jordan is going to be there at the game, Mike Norvell said today. So you'll have that going on. You also have our good friend Jarvis Brownlee still playing a cornerback for Louisville. So there's that, the matchup with him and Johnny Wilson, how it went last time. There's just like a lot of their Louisville's running backs, Florida State's receivers against their DBs. There's a lot of interesting little subplots, I think, to this game.
Jordan's career started with Louisville. I mean, he's not playing in the game. It would have been more perfect, obviously, if he was healthy enough. But yeah, it's just what a 5-year span, or is it 6 now for Jordan, in terms of watching those programs develop from where they were when he made his decision to where things are now. It's just it goes to show you that when, again, the times are good, appreciate it. We are going to appreciate our friend, State Farm agent Russ Voorhis, for 15 seconds right now on the Sunday Smash.
Contact Russ Voorhis for an auto quote today.
We want to thank Drew Lindsay. There you go. Longtime listener, first time to comment. Welcome, Drew. We hope you enjoy us. Hit the like button underneath the video. Subscribe to our channel. It's absolutely free. Ira, before we welcome in our next guest, we wanted to expound a little bit on Russ Voorhis, who has been an OG of Warchant.com, supporting what we do at Warchant, and then also one of the most supportive Florida State fans you can meet when it comes to scholarships. I mean, really putting his money where his heart is, his garnet and gold heart is. Russ is an awesome guy, and he can help you with your insurance needs at either those 2 phone numbers or at russvoorhis.com.
Yeah, as you see on the video, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see the video. But if you go to if you look at his website, russvorhis.com, you'll see he has two offices, one in Jacksonville Beach, one in Orange Park. So that's kind of the primary place if you're going to do the face-to-face thing, but you don't have to be. He really services anywhere in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and got a great staff and does a really good job. Very knowledgeable. And like you said, you can talk a little bit of Noles with him. He's fired up right now about Florida State. He was texting me last week leading up to the Florida game, and I'm guessing he'll be pretty fired up. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's up in Charlotte this weekend.
Business is booming for State Farm agent Russ Vorhis from Sunday Smash clients. So join the list of Noles that are supporting Russ Vorhis today. Business is also booming on Warchant TV and warchant.com because Florida State's 12-0, and it's time to break it down even further with our lead football analyst here at Warchant. He's Dominic Robinson. Dominic, I know the Florida game means the world to you. Found a way last night, 24-15. You got to be in a happy place as well. How you doing?
Man, I'm buzzing. I can still actually, feel I'm still tingling a little bit. Like I heard you guys say earlier, it's hard to even believe. It's hard to fathom. We're here, they did it. I can't even, I don't know if I could ever put into words for anyone how hard it is to go 12-0. Really, really, really good teams don't go 12-0. Right. A lot of national champions don't end the season 12-0. It's hard to win 12 football games, man. Just to think about this team, I remember last year, Tom, you and I, at some point in the season, kind of looking at each other and going, hey, this is a good team. Like, we have a good team.
Yeah.
Like, this is cool. Like, we have an actual good team. Like, there's not any surprises around the corner that are like, oh, dang, we suck again. Oh, no, we suck again. Like, it's like, no, this team is good. Like, we have a good team. But we still even had some apprehension, like what's around the corner. And actually, there was a buzzsaw around the corner, a close Wake loss, a close Clemson loss, I think at home last year. And so it was like we still hadn't quite completely turned the corner. Well, we are completely around that corner and full speed. We're 100 miles an hour, and everybody's sort of in our rear view. That's a cool thing, man. It's hard to believe. It's exciting as heck, and just appreciate it. Appreciate all the things, all the moments, the good and the bad, all of it. It's just great.
D-Rob, I was going to ask you. So watching that game last night, how worried were you the way it started, and how good did you feel when they got that touchdown before the half?
I was incredibly worried, even after the touchdown.
Really?
And I'll tell you why is the swamp is different. Mm-hmm. The swamp is different. It is I feel like I get this question, or I'm in this conversation once a month. Playing at the swamp is a completely different experience. And so a backup quarterback coming in any game is a tough position to be in. You getting your first start in the swamp is just, you want to talk about a whole bunch of different factors that you cannot prepare for. That is it, man. The swamp at night, that place is bumping. I absolutely loved playing at the swamp. I still think I wanted to go. I almost went to the game yesterday, just because I love that place. I mean, the hate, the absolute hate that they have for us. And you can feel it on the field. You can feel it, the daggers that are being shot. And I love that. Like, I love that. But that's incredibly hard for a kid to come into his first start at quarterback for a 11-0 team. There are so many factors. But yes, I was legitimately concerned. Any rivalry game, I'm gonna be concerned. A rivalry game on the road, I'm gonna be doubly concerned. A rivalry game on the road with the best, with your heart and soul, the reason why your program has returned being gone, and a backup quarterback in his first start, the amount of concern is off the charts.
And on top of that, they kept getting put in terrible situations.
Yeah. And then put your guy on the 5-yard line. Then put him on the 10-yard line to start a drive. It was it's sort of like anything that can go wrong did. In terms of like what you would want to happen for, I'm thinking as a coach, I'm going, okay. And I heard you even say this. We scripted, I'm sure a bunch of those plays were scripted. They're not scripted to be on the 10.
Right.
They're not scripted to be on the 5. We're thinking we got to stop. They started with the ball on the 20. They punt it to us. We're starting on the 35 at worst, maybe the 40. You're not scripting thinking, hey, we're going to be backed up with our new guy, to start his, to get his start here in the swamp. And so, yeah, it was there was a lot of things that had me really not feeling very uneasy. It felt like the score at half was nowhere near indicative of like what was going on. Like not even close. It's like, do not look at that scoreboard, man, because this thing, hold on for the second half. Hold on to your britches on what might happen, because and I'll say this too. There's a couple of things I do want to touch on, but that quarterback over there, so who was it? Who covered that game? Oh, it was Herb Street. So it was ABC, right? It was an ABC game. ABC was doing was tugging at my heartstrings, because when you start a kid's package with he's an athlete, you get D-Rob right away. You get me on board. Well, I want to hate the guy. I want to hate this kid playing quarterback. I want him to be scum. I want him to be, doing some weird stuff like Levis was doing last year, eating mayonnaise out of in coffee or whatever. Like that's what I want the Florida quarterback to be. Well, the kid comes across like phenomenally to me, mainly because he's an athlete. If the guy's a multi-sport athlete, you're going to win me over like pretty quickly. And so they start the package with he's playing soccer, he's playing basketball. I'm like, oh, great. I want to hate this scumbag. And I like him right off the bat. And then he's an athlete, and then he makes that throw on third down.
Man.
And I'm going, dude, this dude. I'm going, man, I'm really upset, because I'm like, I want to hate him, but I think I really love the kid. My football pants just start going crazy, my coaching pants, because I'm just like, this guy's special. He's playing baseball at Florida. That's something that my son's going to do, and that's something that I did at Florida State, being a 2-sport athlete in college. So I'm like, dang it, man, I got to root for this guy, and I want to hate him. So, but yeah, that kid looks special, and hopefully we continue to put together special defenses, because he's going to be a problem. That guy's going to be a player, man. I really like what I saw, and I think he's going to be very good. And you mentioned Adam Fuller. I think Adam Fuller has absolutely won me over. I was not completely on board with him last year. I thought the LSU game, I thought he called a really bad game, and we got really lucky, to be honest. Defensively, that second half, I thought we were really bad. We were playing 2-man with the running quarterback, and I didn't think, last year, I didn't think the kid, Jaden Daniels, I didn't think he could throw the ball. He certainly figured that out. He's freaking lighting up the world. But I thought I didn't like our plan versus him last year. And so I was really skeptical on Adam Fuller a lot of last year. And, man, he's won me over this year, man. He's been brilliant. The way that he approached playing that guy too high and not letting – he was kind of letting the game, come to us instead of trying to force the action, knowing that we were the better team. The approach was an approach of, we've got the guys. We're eventually going to wear you down. You're not going to be this amped. It was a great rivalry game sort of approach when your team is better, when that your guys are better, and you have a backup quarterback. Because if you play too aggressively and one of those balls spit out and they bust a 60, 70-yard run, ATN or one of those guys, you're in big trouble. Like I said, you're playing in the swamp on the road with a backup quarterback. defensively, you probably can't have the same game plan that you would normally have. So I love that he did that, man. And that was something that I probably wouldn't have even thought of going into the game. I would have thought, you know what, we're going to bust these dirt bags up from the beginning. We're going to play aggressive. And I don't want to say he was passive. He certainly wasn't passive, but he was definitely allowing them some run gaps early to kind of, let them think that they had something that they didn't really have.
And really, you saw it show up
on snap 1 is not going to be who you are on snap 35.
Right.
And so if you can know who you are 35 through 60, that kind of can help you plan 1 through 35, as long as you know your offense isn't going to turn it over. And it also back to Tate not turning it over and doing such a great job there.
I thought it also showed when they got in the red zone, like the possession where they end up, Akeem Dent gets called for the personal foul that nobody understands. But I thought Florida State's defense was going to get 8 stops in a row down there. They end up getting the run on, I think, second down to score. But I thought there was a good chance that was going to be one of those all-time goal line stands there, because the defense, once they got in the red zone, I thought Florida State's defense, I think, to your point, I think Adam Fuller knew, even if they get in the red zone, I feel good about our chances when they get in the red zone.
Absolutely. And you could see that. You could see, you got that feeling that, hey, man, these guys, if they get down here, it's going to be 3 at best. And again, I thought that was a brilliant approach, because in reality, that ended up playing itself out. And that was the thing. Like, as a fan, when you watch, you're freaking out because you're going, they're getting down there. They're getting some runs. And you want them to have 0 yards, but the game doesn't work. Those guys have scholarships too. Their coaches get paid too. And I'll tell you, man, I know nobody wants to hear this, but I do believe they're on a good track. I think they're on a good path. I think they're more talented than Miami was. I think they look a little bit more organized than Miami did from a scheme standpoint. And again, as long as you get the quarterback, I almost felt at times like I was looking in the rearview mirror at us when I was watching them. They remind me of us with the young Jordan Travis, 4 years ago, where there's a couple pieces that are pretty impressive, and it's not too far away. I was impressed with the Gators.
Good news is that Graham Mertz is slated to come back next year, so it could be getting in their own way.
That is great news, because I think he's trash. He's absolutely terrible. Yeah, he's bad. He's bad. He should not be the quarterback at Florida at a school like that. Like that makes me happy. Like, they should have been happy with some of the quarterbacks we had over the last couple. I'm happy if we can sign Graham Mertz up for another year. As a Nole, thank you. Bring him back. Run that back with Graham Mertz.
So how would you?
I watched a lot of those games. My wife's a Gator. I watched a lot of those games. It's no bueno.
How would you assign value on what Tate Rodemaker did last night? You've talked about the circumstances, add in the fact that he ran 3 plays. The offense ran 3 plays in the first quarter. They probably had 2 possessions in a span of about an hour and 15 minutes, D-Rob. But then based upon how we broke it down last week, and thank you to everybody who watched that video on Tate Rodemaker's film from North Alabama, based upon what you've seen from Louisville last year, North Alabama a week ago, and then what you saw last night, where do you stand on Tate Rodemaker right now?
I'm concerned. Probably not in the Louisville game, but in a playoff game, I'm concerned. Again, if you go back and watch the breakdown, and I don't like to do this often, but you guys go check out those breakdowns. And now when you watch them in retrospect, I've been killing it all season. Like, every time that I say that something's going to happen, the main topic of the breakdown, they've been dead on. I've been texting Tom like, hey, man, there it is. Holding on to the ball too long, going through his progression, and, having pressure and not getting out. And that's what happened. It happened yesterday again, or Saturday. Yeah, that was yesterday. again, he was put in some really, really bad situations. And it was there were some times where, again, and I said this during the breakdown, he made some great throws. The guy has a really, really great arm. But he wants to get through his reads, and that's going to be an issue. One of the things I said that they would do was screen Florida a lot. I knew Florida would come out aggressive, and we didn't see enough screens, I thought. So I hope to see that going forward. Wide receiver screens. They did hit Johnny on a wide receiver screen at one point. I think he got 6 yards. It's a good gain. But I think going forward, we got to, especially early in the game, man, they talk about, getting your playmakers touches early, how important that is. I want to see if we're not good, because we also were taking shots one-on-one, one-on-one shots, but those are low percentage, man. Yeah. Let Ford get a touch in space and let him get tackled for a 4-yard gain. It will pay dividends down the road. And so that was, I didn't like, that part of the game plan may have went out of the window when you're down and you're getting backed up on multiple possessions. You may have lost some of the screen game that you wanted, when it's 3rd and whatever, 14 or 27 or whatever that was. Probably not a good time to waste your best screen, because what are you going to get? If you get 20, you're still punting. But yeah, I thought I would see more of the screen game for Tate. Because it's clear on drop back passes, you've got to really protect up front. And I just don't know that we have the hosses to do that against a legit front. Florida is not that, and they were clearly, causing problems with the rush.
I wanted to ask you about that though, D-Rob, because like when I was watching it, and again, I know TV, I know you've got the all 22, so you may have looked at that already, but to me, it seemed like Florida knew they were going to try to get the ball. They were going to try to get the ball out of Tate's hands into the flats, maybe because they were jumping everything. They were jumping every first move. And I felt like, man, if you could maybe max protect and run some double moves, maybe you'd have a chance to hit some things. Florida, they almost picked off a screen. They were jumping stuff. And so I don't know if maybe that's part of why he got Norvell might have gotten a little gun shy about doing that, but I don't know what their solution is at that point, because like you said, they're not a great pass protection group, and Tate needs to play with more urgency. So that's a riddle they have to kind of solve.
Yeah. And honestly, this was on a day like today, man, I hate to, it's almost like bad for me to come on, because I know I'm very analytical, and if I say something that's comes across as negative, it's not necessarily that it's negative. I'm speaking the truth, and those things are okay. Like, really good teams can still have these problems. So for me, there were a couple one-on-ones that both Johnny and Ford didn't win. Keon didn't win. Those were concerning for me, because that is the answer, is, and maybe there's a better way to, better routes for them to run when they do get the one-on-ones. But yeah, I thought Saturday night, Keon had a couple one-on-ones that he didn't win, and Johnny had a couple one-on-ones that he didn't win. And I thought Tate threw good balls. I thought they were on time and all of those things. So I always say this is my big thing. Like, it's a player game. The players got to make plays. Your playmakers have to, if they don't make that play, then you don't get to win. Like that's the thing. They're one of those two guys are two of the best receivers in the country. So if you can't win with giving them one-on-one shots, then your team doesn't get to win the game, because if your best players can't beat their best players, or whatever their matchup is, then you just have to lose that game. Honestly, that's just the reality of the situation. When a team can beat you up front and you can't really run the ball, which we struggled running the ball. That's to me that the what it comes down to is like Keon's got to win a couple of those one-on-ones. I thought he kind of had an off day, and then Johnny was getting a lot of run, and he put a couple balls on the ground, which is, again, those things will come back to kill you. Two games from now, or even this weekend's game.
Well, we get to break down, D-Rob, this week. We get to convene for an ACC Championship edition of the breakdowns, which is really fun to say because last year we were trying to search our way through a 5-7 to wherever the journey was going. It's amazing how fast it's happened. The last question for tonight's purposes, it's something that personally kind of irritates me as I watch the games because Coach Norvell will say, and I'll qualify it really quickly. I understand if you're behind the chains and you're losing first down, it's tough to go fast and it's tough to go with tempo. But Coach Norvell often says on his own, unprompted, unasked by the media, we got to be a little faster. We got to move things a little bit quicker. Jordan took forever at the line often. He'd walk up to the lineman and go through his checks. I mean, it was almost like he was taking a dinner order. It took so long before he was ready to go. Tate did some more of that last night. They even cut to his dad in the stands at one point when they were in a goal to go, and his dad saying, "Go, let's go."
Yeah, I saw that. I felt that as a dad myself, as a coach, as a dad coach. I was like, I wanted to send him a text, like, "It's all right, Dad. He'll be all right."
And his dad is a coach. Yeah, every dad believes they're a coach, but you are a coach. He is a coach.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. I wanted solidarity with him. Like, hey, man, we're okay. We're gonna be all right. Tate's doing great.
So what do you make of that, though? What do you make of the tempo? Do you think, because Mike says it aloud himself, what do you make of that whole idea of trying to go faster with Tate? Good idea, bad idea?
Man, that's a really loaded question that, as you know, I can go, when it comes down to that, strategy and X's and O's and things like that. I would say that you have to pre-plan going into the week. These are our tempo plays, and know that those are the plays that Tate shines and where he's comfortable. And you can't maybe go fast in the way that you would normally go fast week 1 through 11, where you are making these checks, you are setting the protection, you are either getting us in or out of a play. Whether that's, hey, we're going to throw screen to the right, but we're going to throw it to the left. You may want to, you sort of kill some of the, external layers of the concepts, and you go, hey, we're going to call these 4, and these are the 4, tempo plays, 4 runs, 4 passes, and we're not checking out. We're not changing protection. And then what you have to do is just you build in, hey, okay, if it's a drop back, this is your hot throw. If there are 5 potential rushers, you're throwing the ball to this guy or this space. It becomes a thing where, again, I don't know the system and how it's taught from the beginning. So it's hard for me to say specifically like what they should do or can do. But there has to be some sort of, understanding of, hey, this is our tempo package, and this is what we're going to do. I wouldn't leave it open to, we're just going to go fast and have the whole playbook to go fast, which with Jordan you would have, which is why with Jordan, even when they're trying to go fast, a lot of times you see him making changes and making checks because they've given him the freedom to get them in and out of plays, even when they're going fast. And so what you need, and we've talked about this. I talked about this last year when I was coaching offense, of a way, because our quarterback got hurt to start the season. We had he was a sophomore that was supposed to be the JV starter, and we needed a way to go fast but kill like some of the RPOs. We didn't need him reading it. We needed him to just throw it to Deuce. So, in this case, it's like, hey, we're killing the RPO version of this. We're throwing this to Keon.
Yep.
So, that's how we're going to go fast so that we don't have you trying to process protection, run pass, and then who do I pass it to? You're just knowing I'm passing the ball to this person.
I do want to echo these comments. I think you're going to put one of them up, Tom, but a couple of people made comments that felt like at times maybe the plays were getting in a little late, and I felt that way. And I want to go back and watch it. But, if he's not getting the play before, I don't know, 16, 17, that's kind of late, especially if he's got to get everybody lined up. So especially with a freshman he's not a freshman, a first-time starting quarterback on the road in the swamp, like, felt like the plays needed to get a little bit early. I'm saying that just based on how it felt at the time. I do want to go back and watch and see, because I think I can tell that off TV. But
that was that actually holds true. There were times where it was getting in late, for sure, and a lot of that happens because you're going. We would normally run this in this spot, but it's Tate in the swamp.
Yeah,
and they're going to send pressure. So how do I still get, sort of the concept of this play, but, put training wheels on it so that it doesn't end up being a disaster? So it's, hey, we know what we want to do. We want to run scissors. We want to run a post corner, but Tate's going to hold on to that thing and we can't protect it. So we got to get into a different formation than we normally get into, and we got to max protect. Okay, how do I do that? Okay, we got to go 12 personnel instead of we got to go 12 personnel instead of being in 10. And then so you're trying to do all of that stuff sort of on the run. Sometimes that may be why it's getting in a little bit later.
We thank JC6782 says, hate to use an old Jimbo reference. Well, Jimbo's living life right now with the buyout, but we just beat the damn Gators. That was a great locker room moment. And then Javi also, thank you, Javi. Game last night brought back so many great memories of past teams, but man, do we love this team. See you guys in Charlotte. State champs. Yeah, this is an easy team to root for, isn't it, guys? I mean, it's 12-0 for the third time since 2013. We're documenting it all week, I should say, here on Warchant.com, Warchant TV. D-Rob and I will convene for an ACC Championship edition. Look forward to texting with you in the day to come, Dominic, to see what it is we're going to be breaking down, but it should be fun. Florida State and Louisville kickoff next Saturday, 8 p.m. On the website side of things, Ira's 321 comes out on Warchant.com tomorrow. Is that right, Ira? Tomorrow?
Yep.
Wake Up Warchant podcast first thing in your feeds tomorrow morning. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 p.m. It's a loaded week. It's the bonus week we've been waiting 9 years for. We can't wait to cover it for you at Warchant.com, Warchant TV. Our thanks to everybody behind the scenes tonight, like Director Ben, who is a rock for us at Warchant TV. The contributors tonight,
Ben.
Florida Man in Texas. D-Rob loves Ben because Ben does so much work on our projects during the week that he needs to be thanked like twice over. Florida Man in Texas, Garrett, FSU fan, James B, Nolebuck83, Seth, Christopher, Z-Chan, Sean, Robert D, James, JC, and Javi, as well as Jonathan. Thank you for your contributions. And, of course, always, thanks to Russ Voorhis for sponsoring Sunday Smash. For Dominic, for Ira, my name is Tom. We will talk to you soon on Warchant TV. Hit the like button on the way out for more FSU content. Stay tuned to Warchant TV.